back to my channel. I'm Veronica with Nurturing Connections Homeschool, where I share tips and encouragement and planners to help you connect with what matters most. Now, if you're new to my channel, we have been homeschooling for over 10 years now. I have an 8th grader, a 5th grader, and a 2nd grader at this time. So along the way, over the course of that decade, we have hit a number of different bumps and challenges and so forth, and have learned quite a bit. So my hope through this channel and through my videos and blog posts is to encourage you in your journey, if you're just starting out, to just share some tips and things we've learned along the way, and hopefully inspire you to keep your eyes on what is most important. Now today we are talking about what you can do if you cannot find the perfect curriculum. Now, I have been reading different posts along the way. I find my own encouragement through others who have gone before me or who are in the trenches with me. And as I've read through a lot of their biggest tips, one of the things I keep seeing over and over again is find the right curriculum. Once you find that perfect curriculum, then it is smooth sailing after that, and things tend to get better. You'll find your homeschool sweet spot, and you can then target some of the other goals that you have. Now that works really well for some, and if that is you, by all means stick with it. If you have found your homeschool sweet spot, if you have found the perfect curriculum for your children and your family, then stay with it. Do not change things. Do not shake things up just for the sake of shaking it up. Hold fast and move forward and keep doing what you're doing. The reason I'm putting this particular video together is because sometimes that doesn't always happen. And I want to be honest with you and upfront with you, just in case you fall into that category like we did, where you couldn't find the perfect curriculum and you struggled and you spun your wheels and you just kind of started asking, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with our homeschool? And it's not necessarily that something is wrong with you or your homeschool. It just may be the season that you're in or the challenges that you're facing. And so it may be just an area that you're called to grow in instead and see things a little bit differently. Why wouldn't a curriculum work for everybody? Well, for one thing, a curriculum writer cannot anticipate the needs of every single family, every single child, every single homeschool across the nation, across the world. There's just no way. They cannot anticipate that. I've done curriculum writing for a state project, and now I'm writing my own curriculum. And as much as I would like to anticipate the needs of everyone, and as much as I'm coming in from every single angle, it's still going to be impossible to meet the needs of everyone. And so you'll want to keep that in mind. The curriculum writers are doing their absolute best in trying to create a product that will meet the needs of most learners, but it may not meet your family's needs as is. So keep that in mind. That's okay. Sometimes you have learning differences that you're dealing with. Sometimes you have special needs. Sometimes you have emotional needs that you're dealing with. It could just be the season that you're in. You have a newborn, you have babies, you have toddlers in the mix, you have elderly parents that you're helping support. It could be a budgetary thing that the perfect curriculum is out there, but you don't have the budget just yet to afford that particular curriculum. And so whatever it is that may be holding you back from finding that perfect curriculum, I want you to know that there are things you can do within your budget, within your life season, within your particular homeschool experience that can still help you have a meaningful, valuable homeschool for your children. So here are 10 things that I have found helpful along the way. I've come against many of those challenges at one point or another, and so I want to share with you some things that I have found helpful to hopefully help you as well. Number one is change your perspective. Be willing to think outside of the box. A lot of times we make curriculum our savior, quote unquote. We think that if we just get this curriculum and we check off every single box, we're going to arrive where we hope to arrive. And in some cases that may be the truth, but in many cases, or in a lot of cases, it may not be. And if we're constantly allowing that feeling, that fear of missing out, that FOMO, to keep us paralyzed in our own journeys, then we're gonna miss out on what's right in front of us and what's most important. So Let's not put our faith in a curriculum. As good as it may be, our faith needs to be in Christ and Christ alone. And we need to seek him first above all, seek his kingdom, and allow all those things to fall into place as they will. And a part of that is changing that perspective on curriculum, not holding fast and saying, if I just had this, things would be fine. You could have the best curriculum in the world, but if your attitude is sour and bitter, if your experiences with your children are tainted with frustration or negativity, then that's going to outweigh the benefit of the curriculum. At the same time, if you have a mediocre curriculum, one that needs a few tweaks along the way, but you come into it with the right perspective, with a heart of gratitude and contentment, love for your children, and joy and the excitement of learning, then that's going to change your whole experience as well. So change your perspective, be willing to think outside the box. Don't be looking at what other homeschoolers are doing constantly. That can lead a lot of times to that FOMO, and all of that is just rooted in that fear. Am I doing enough? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? My homeschool doesn't look like theirs, so I must be doing something wrong. Or that's the cool mom. I must be a boring mom. I need to do more and do more and do more. And it just may not be the season for you right now. So be willing to change that. Number 2, you can add to the curriculum. So if you have a curriculum already, you don't feel like it's enough, or it's something that you found online that was free, you can always add to it. You can add activities, you can add field trips, you can go online and find videos, you can find books at the local library that are free. There are a number of learning opportunities locally, a lot of times that we miss out on when we're not aware of them, or we're afraid to step out of our curriculum box. And so we kind of push away all these other learning opportunities that may look nothing like school, but may be more engaging and more beneficial to your children's learning than a textbook would be or curriculum. I wrote a blog post called When Learning Looks Nothing Like School. So I encourage you to check that out. I'm going to link it below. If you think a lot of times that learning has to happen in a desk with a curriculum, with a textbook all the time, if that's something that you struggle with, you're looking for some inspiration, I encourage you to check that one out. It really will help you just kind of see all of those opportunities out there that are a part of their education that you may be missing because you're focused on the curriculum and checking off boxes. Some other ideas could be games. Games are great for developing processing skills, executive functioning skills, math skills. You could do additional math practices online. Number 3, take out things. So if you have a curriculum that you love, but it's not working as is, maybe it's too high level for your particular learners, maybe there's some things in there that you just don't want to do, you don't think it's a good fit for your children, feel free to take it out. Know that you have the freedom to be able to make those decisions that are in the best interest of your children. So take them out, skip some things, remove some problems in math if it's become too much for your learner. You can always do them the next day if you need to, but feel free to make those adjustments and tweaks along the way to help your children. I was listening to a talk by Andrew Pudwal one day, and something that resonated with me was he was talking about the one time he purchased a biology textbook, and he gave it to his daughter. And he said, okay, look through the table of contents, look through everything, and tell me what you'd like to learn about. And after she did that, she jotted down some notes. He took back that textbook and said, okay, go learn about it. And so that to me just really stuck with me. Like, would I have the guts, if you will, to just say, hey, let's go learn about this on our own? And early on, my answer would be no. I would have felt like I had to follow that textbook and I had to do every single thing that it said in there to do. And a lot of that came from my own background with public school education as a teacher, as a consultant, as someone who was a specialist and working with educators. Everything was about checking off those boxes and getting everything done because it was that test that was looming at the end. And to step outside of that and say, you know, we don't have to learn these things in this order at this particular time just because somebody else said we had to. In homeschooling, we have the freedom to make those adjustments based on the needs of our children. God gave them all unique abilities and interests and gifts, And as long as we're trying to stuff them in a box, we'll never be able to capitalize on that and encourage those strengths and help them to grow. So being willing to take out some things along the way if we need to, being willing to add to the curriculum if we see a particular interest in going with it and exploring it further, that's another way we can do that. Number 4, swapping things out. So you may like the curriculum you have, but certain things don't work from here, but you got this idea over here, just swap it out. I know I did that a lot with my father's world, exploring countries and cultures. I have a whole review on that, a video you can check out where I share how I did that. But in that particular example, there was a geography game. And we started early on with that geography game, and we played it, but after a while it became monotonous for the kids and just not something that they were really learning anymore. So when it came time to do that particular game, we just swapped it out and did another activity instead that worked for our family. So again, be willing to swap things out, change things up a little bit. If you get to a point in the textbook and you realize, there was actually in that particular curriculum, we were reading from Streams of Civilization, and I felt like that was just too high level for my younger children. And so I would take the time to read it in advance. I took some notes, and then I just swapped out that information with a picture book if I could find one, a video, or I just explained it my own way and I drew some notes on the board. You want to get creative with the curriculum that you have. Again, they cannot anticipate every single learning situation. So feel free to make those adjustments to make it work for you and use it more as a guide. Curriculums are meant to be a tool, and it's a tool that you can use to accomplish your goals. Another option you can do is to spread it out. And so if you found a great curriculum, but the pacing is just too quick for your particular homeschool situation, whether it's because you have a co-op that you're doing some days a week, or you have therapy sessions or doctor appointments that you have to get to, and you're feeling that pressure of the curriculum of, I have to get through this, I have to get through this. We're getting to the end of the year. We're only about 3/4 of the way through. We got to check off these boxes. I want to encourage you to just take a deep breath and spread it out. You can spread out that curriculum over 12 months or 18 months or whatever you need to really enjoy that learning with your children and embrace those opportunities. And then just do the next thing once you're done with that. I came across that situation early on with my father's world. We were doing adventures in U.S. history. And so that's about a 2nd grade curriculum. I was trying to rush through it. At the time, I was combining it with Beautiful Feet books because I had seen that and wanted to try some of those things as well. So we had all these books and library books, and it was so great and so rich. And then I started realizing we weren't going to finish the curriculum by the end of the year. And I started to panic, and I started to push, and I started to rush through some of those lessons. And truth be told, we missed probably the last 4 weeks of the curriculum. And at that time, I just remember saying, I need to stay on track. I need to stay on track. So we went on with the next one, and we missed it. We missed those opportunities. I go back and look at those and had some great picture books I would have loved to have done with my kids. There were some great activities in there that I would have loved to have done, but I felt like I needed to rush and finish by a certain date. Looking back now, I realize we've made some changes along the way. It would not have been a big deal at all if we had just continued with those next 4 weeks and then picked up the next one and then taken as long as we needed to for that one as well. I'm talking a lot more about your history, your science, your art, your music, all of those things, geography. They don't have to be done within a specific time frame. So feel free to spread it out if you need to. If your children are learning well and the curriculum is working well, just in a different time frame than what the writer anticipated. Take a break. So number 6 is take a break. Sometimes we hit those roadblocks, whether it's a developmental roadblock, whether there's just something going on in our home situation that makes it difficult to push through. So for example, with reading, you may find that your child is advancing, and then all of a sudden they hit a point where they're just not able to move past that. Take a break, pull back, read some other books along the way, If it's a math curriculum, go buy a $5 workbook at the store and just supplement with some practices to regain that confidence in math, and then try back in a week or two and see what happens. Sometimes they're just these little blips in the developmental process that they need to work through. Sometimes it's a scheduling issue, but being okay with taking a break every now and then jumping back on track, you'll find that things will go by more quickly at the end than if you just continue to push and hit against that wall. It also is better for your relationship with your children. Number 7, use it differently. So in one of our cases, we have a curriculum from Generations called Taking the Americas for Jesus, and it comes with a workbook. Now, it's a level 3 curriculum, so it is a lower level than what my older 2 children would need. And we were doing the workbook for a while, but I just found that it was more tedious. It was something that really wasn't adding to the conversations that I wanted to have with them. It wasn't adding to their learning per se. And so instead of using the workbook, we started using the textbook as a means to also share how to do note-taking skills. And so I'd read and I showed them how to outline. I showed them how to use graphic organizers to organize the information. And so we used the content to have these great discussions, but we also used it to learn skills that they'll need to learn anything else. And that's my ultimate goal. I can never teach them everything about everything. There is no way. And so my goal in our homeschool is to teach them how to read right, how to read well, write well, do math well, and how to learn well, so that they can learn about anything in the future and have the skills and abilities to do that and the confidence to do that, and not always feel that there's an expert out there that has to tell them exactly what to do and when to do in order for them to learn. Learning is fluid, learning is constant, learning is lifelong, and I want that love of learning to continue way past our homeschool journey. And so teaching them those skills and using the textbooks or things that we find along the way to do that is part of meeting their needs that doesn't necessarily fit into a curriculum box. So feel free to use your curriculum differently. You may have a great one, but activities are all wrong. You can use it as a spine, and you can say, okay, here in this table of contents, it kind of shows me the order of these events that I want to target with my kids, and I'll just do it a different way along the way to make it work for my kids. So again, be flexible there. Number 8, track your learning. Okay, so for me as a former curriculum writer and educational specialist, I did want something to be able to track. My personality works that way. I wanted something that showed what we did do, because it was very easy for me to feel almost like a failure if I got to the end of the year and didn't complete that curriculum, and to think, oh my gosh, we didn't learn anything. We didn't finish this thing. And so instead of making the curriculum our goal, I ended up establishing our goals beforehand. So that was what founded the bucket planning system. I went and created my buckets. So for example, science, I put all our goals for science. What do I want our children to learn in science? And so for example, some of it is I engage in science experiments, or I understand the scientific process, or I learn about botany. Those are the goals. So how we get there is open. So we are studying zoology right now with a Generations curriculum called God Made Animals, and it's going wonderfully, but it's gardening season, and I wanted to plant seeds with my children. I don't feel locked into that curriculum anymore to say, no, we can't do this now. Instead, we scrapped it for a week. We brought in some books on seeds. We learned about seeds and germination and botany. And then we pulled out an Apologia workbook that we had, and started looking through that. And then we planted our seeds. We're getting our garden ready. All of that is working towards our goals for science. And so I want to make sure to give it the value that it deserves, and not scrap that learning and say it doesn't count because it's not our curriculum. And then another day, just recently, we had all of these birds in our backyard, hundreds of robins. We saw amazing blue jays. We saw warblers and all these different types of birds. And so we went out there with our field guides, and we took pictures of these birds, and the kids, we talked about these birds. And that particular day, we didn't get into our lesson in our curriculum. And I counted it because we were working toward our goals. We're not working toward the curriculum writer's goals. And if this is meaningful learning that the Lord has provided on this day, we want to take advantage of that and explore it further. And so I look over here and I see I learned about nature through observation, living books, field guides, and videos. Yes, we did that. And so I wrote that down in our planner and I just bumped over the curriculum lesson to the next particular day. Creating this system also helped our situation because for the longest time I would have to buy different curriculums and I would have to jump from here to here to here, and I know that's frowned upon, and I know that for many it's like you need to just stick with one, and I get that. But I had learning differences in our homeschool that I was dealing with. And if this wasn't working, I was okay with trying this, and I was okay with trying that, and I was okay with picking and choosing what I needed to help that child or those children to be successful. And when I took the time to write it all out in my bucket planner, I could then see that all those things I was doing was leading us toward our goals. And that was what was of most importance, not following one thing all the way through, regardless of what it did for my children or family. So tracking their learning can be really helpful for that. The same thing with math, for example. Yes, it is foundational, and yes, it does help to stick with one curriculum. But if you have to supplement along the way to get them there, as long as you're reaching those goals and they're learning the skills that they need to advance further, then you've done what you needed to do. So the bucket planner is available in my shop. If you want to go check it out, I have a video series that takes you step by step through it and creating your own. If you wanted to do that further, I'll link it below. But basically, it's just each and every bucket outlined with specific goals for our family. And how we get there is completely up to us. We can use a number of curriculums. We can use one. We could use no curriculum. It just depends on what we're doing on that particular day, but tracking it is what helps us see we are working toward our goals. We are being successful in our homeschool because we're accomplishing the things that we set out to accomplish. The truth is, and it's happened in the past for us, you could get through the end of a curriculum and check off every box and not learn anything by the end of it because you just regurgitated facts and passed tests and then deleted everything from your memory. And that's not what I want our homeschool to be about. I want it to be meaningful. And so if those opportunities present themselves, then I want to be able to capitalize on those and then go from there. Number 9, create your own unit studies. I think we shy away from that because we feel like it has to be boxed and prepared for us. And if you're at the beginning part of your season, your homeschool journey, then yes, that makes a lot of sense. You may want to find what other people are doing first out there before you venture out on your own. But if you're ready to do that, in my bucket planning system download, there is a sheet that looks like this. It says Unit Study Planning. And so basically, if my goal here was to learn botany or about botany, for example, then I could write all of the goals and objectives that I have. What do we want to learn about botany? We want to learn about the seeds. We want to learn about the different types of plants, flowering plants, for example, trees, and so forth. So I would set forth our goals here, and these are the check boxes that would show our progress along the way. Then I would look at all the opportunities for different activities that we could do together. Is there a co-op class that the kids can take? Is there a museum we can visit? Is there a project we can do in our own backyard for this? Are there videos that we can watch together? So all of those would be listed here. And then readings. What books can we read together? Is there a textbook we can follow? Is there a curriculum that has particular page numbers that we want to explore further? And then how many days do I want to dedicate to this particular unit study? So this is just a planning sheet, kind of like a brain dump. And once all that goes on there, then it is as easy as, okay, what are we working on today? Let me check off boxes. Or of course I can plan it day by day by day if I see fit. So this is a planning tool that's a part of the bucket planning system, but you can do something similar to this. On a scratch sheet of paper, just breaking it down, making a list of all your ideas, and then just mapping that out in your planner to accomplish your goals. It will also allow you to bring in a variety of different activities to meet your students' needs. So if you have a kinesthetic learner, for example, you can get them moving. If you have a visual learner, you can get some more videos or things that you can draw on the board, drawings, pictures, you can look online for those things. And then of course, if you have an auditory learner, then you can do more auditory activities for them. So you can customize it for their specific needs. And again, you can get these ideas from your curriculums themselves, or you can create your own based on your specific goals. Number 10 is trust in the Lord. In the book of Proverbs, it tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And we want to remember that as homeschool moms. It is so important to keep our eyes on him. In this journey, I have been tossed around like a wave at sea very, very often, thinking I'm not doing enough, thinking that because my homeschool doesn't look like other homeschoolers out there, something must be wrong with our situation. I felt if I was using a textbook, for example, in the wake of everybody's doing Charlotte Mason, well, then what is wrong with me? I should not be doing a textbook because I should be doing these things. And the reality is there is no one curriculum or one educational style that will fit the needs of every single child. So the more you can trust the Lord with the journey, the more you can seek him out and ask him to guide you, and ask him which curriculums to use, and ask the Lord to guide you in which learning opportunities to create for your children. And the more you can walk in that faith versus the fear of I'm missing out, I'm not doing enough, I have to check off this box by this particular time, the more you can do that, the more you can walk in faith, the richer your homeschool journey will be, the more meaningful the learning will be, the more connections you will have with your children, the more you will build those relationships you have with them, which will ultimately mean far more than if you just checked off a bunch of boxes but hated everything along the way. So trust him, friends. Trust him above all. Look to him, not around you, as your ultimate encouragement, as your ultimate inspiration. And when you can't find the perfect curriculum, know that that's okay. You have all that you need in front of you to teach your children well, to educate them. And if you remember that education is discipleship, then you're focusing on the most important things if you're focusing on that. So hope that was encouraging to you. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them below. I'd love to hear from you. And please just give me a thumbs up on your way out. I'll see you here next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.